DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's show from DJNTV, Disc Jockey News TV. Tonight's show is brought to you by Electra Voice, DJ Event Planner, DJ Trivia, Odyssey Innovative Designs and Cases, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and the DJNTV Insiders. It's time for Tuesday Night Live Chat with Brian S. Red and John Young. Good evening and welcome to Tuesday night. Tuesday night, which is now the favorite night of the week. Why? Because that's the night Brian Red comes on your screens.
We were actually on the Insider group last night.
We were.
Really cool. I thought it was the greatest session.
It was a fun thing, and there's actually parts of that I took and showed Michael, because there's some things in there when it came to creating the mixes and some of the thought behind it that you went into last night that was really I thought valuable for someone who is 16 years old who's getting into this. They could definitely use that knowledge. So yeah, it was a good night last night. If you guys want to check into that, you can go to djntv.com/training. That takes you to the page that would have all of the links of all of the shows, and there's over 100 different shows on that page. But if you can't see them, it's because you're not a signed-in member.
And the reason we got to do it like that is because we don't want to get flagged for copyright.
Yeah, exactly. All those videos pretty much, each and every one there's a lot of music in those with MJ teaching. There's a couple of things that Brian has done over the years that are there, but a lot of music is involved with those shows because it's tough to talk about mixing, like dropping it on the ones as an example, which is one of the videos that's in there, and not demonstrating with real music. So anyway, tonight's actually kind of reflecting back to my 16-year-old. We're going to talk about opportunities and how that is varied and changed with our personal and the business and different things. But what brought me to tonight's topic is that, Brian, when you and I basically first started, we were kind of doing the bar or club scene, depending upon how you would, what you'd refer to it as in that general market. Right. And in that situation, the opportunity I wanted to hit on first is that my son and Michael, and when he's doing this thing at 16, and he practices, he's out here probably 3 or 4 nights a week out in the office here practicing. Mm-hmm. We had, with our situation, we had the opportunity where we could go in and practice and such in bars and clubs much more than I think that today's DJs do. It seems that we could go and we could do things then, and maybe it was more regional in this area. Is that you can go and play in a bar.
I think it's everywhere.
You could go play in a bar, and if you weren't the greatest mixologist, they'd still be good with it. Whereas today, it seems like there's a different standard when it comes to entertainment in some venues. And I think more venues are more particular, or maybe it's just the crowd doesn't cut us the slack to be creative like we used to have. And it really makes me think that the opportunities to hone your craft are a lot different than they were when you and I were learning our craft.
I think wherever you end up playing for some kind of bar or club gig or whatever, even if it's not a high-paying job, I think it's an opportunity to learn regardless, because if you are, let's say, in a bar where they want to treat you like the human jukebox, you learn to manage that. As much as it sucks, as much as it's not as much fun as just kind of doing whatever you want, you do learn to manage it. And that's a valuable skill. And I got a lot out of doing places like that, as a younger DJ in my teens and as an older guy in my 30s. I got a lot out of it.
Oh, for sure. That's the part when we were talking about it the other day, is that what we got out of that. And I had a person who called me and we were talking about something else. We got onto it. It was a situation where I was playing multiple nights a week, so I could try a song, put two songs together, and I could try that, and it's like, oh, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Then the next time I could either find a different song to replace, because we get those top hits USA, that's what I was getting at the time, and I get that and listen to it, and it's like, oh, hey, this song has potential to be a hit, which you never do anymore. You don't go looking for hits now. You don't. It's just not the way it works.
It doesn't work that way.
But we look, and it's like this song. The song was it Johnny Ray?
Jimmy Ray.
Jimmy Ray. When that song, when we got it on CD, on the release there, listen to that. It's like, this song I think's got some potential. It's going to be something that we can do. So that particular week that came out, I'm in the bar 4 nights. It gave me the opportunity to try it and put it into different spots. Okay, I think it should go with this song, and it didn't work out. The next night I tried it with this. I didn't go. By Friday, I had found a spot that it worked really, really well, and of course, it was starting to get a little airplay. But it was in a spot where I could utilize it, and I think that without that ability to be taking people on a ride as much, and there are some bars you can. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but I almost feel that those bars and those opportunities to be that creative person, and we've kind of talked about this before, where we can be creative at an event is almost more soul fulfilling than going and doing the wedding where we're playing the YMCA one more time.
It's fun to work out those sets in places where you can. I know there was I did Club Evolve for a long, long time, and I stopped doing it after I had my stroke, mostly because I had a lot of things on my plate after that. It wasn't because of my disability. It was because things changed, and I was really busy with videos. And it's a 100-mile round trip. I mean, I had to go to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin and back to do this. When I lived in Mukwonago early on, you saw videos where I was there, that was only probably about a 60-mile round trip, or maybe 50. I don't know. It wasn't that far, but when I moved to Milwaukee, it's a long distance to drive. So I really didn't want to occupy my time with that or put the miles on my vehicle. But that was 6 nights a week. And I would go in there primarily during the week. I didn't go weekends because I was busy doing other things. Other DJs came in on the weekends. But it was cool because some nights it was really crowded and you had obligations to play whatever that crowd was asking for or was responding to or whatever. But then there were those other times where it was quiet. And you could just test stuff out. And sometimes I was testing it out on the staff, see if they liked it. And then they were younger, the bartenders, mostly female, some guys, but they were pretty hip and they were, asking for things that I was like, what is that? And then sure enough, it would turn up on my promotional stuff or my DJ record pool stuff. And I get to learn that stuff. And then I got to learn to mix with other things. And I call those like, just working out almost like going to the gym, and it was good. And I did better weddings than I think when it came to newer music. Now today, like we've talked about a lot, it probably doesn't matter as much with the state of where popular music is and what its appeal happens to be. Back then it was great just to work those sets out.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that becomes a CF Karaoke here mentions that the bars want to listen to mixes. Obviously, some clubs that's a huge thing. We're talking to MJ who does a lot of the clubs, and that they need to see that they can do what they need to do and to be able to perform in a certain way. It's like, and I know in MJ's case that he does multiple clubs and he's able to try a little bit, but he can't get as experimental as to a point we could back at a certain time in certain venues. A couple of the venues that I used to play at now, then if I would go and do them now, it's top 40 and that's pretty much it. Top 40 in an urban thing. And if you go stray out of it too terribly far, you've got crowd or the manager saying, hey, this is our program and format, and you do what we need it to be done because you will attract the wrong type of crowd or you'll chase people or whatever it is.
You've been to my house. You can look out my window and see multiple bars. There's one that's called Blackbird now, just a block away, or not even. It used to be called, what was the name of that place? Oh, geez, it's eluding me now. There was a cool name. It was like Vibe or something like that. and the sign on the side of the bar was a Technics 1200 kind of tilted sideways. So as a diamond, it was a Technics 1200. And you could go in there any night of the week, and there were DJs in there. And there was no dancing. It was just DJs.
Sure.
And they all did whatever they wanted to do. I know they weren't getting paid anything but bar tab, or I think that was just free
drinks for
cocktail
the evening or whatever. Yeah.
But there was this one duo of DJs. They only played 45s. That's all they'd play. And they only played 45s that they found in thrift shops. And it was some of the coolest music discovery that I have experienced in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back. I mean, this goes back. And I may not have even owned this house yet, but it was really cool to go in there. It's the first time, honestly, it's the first time I ever heard William Devon be thankful for what you've got. I missed that song when it came out in the 70s. Now it's just a favorite. It's a staple. It's a stepping song. I heard it there for the first time. And it was the long version they played, which is the only version that I ever want to play. But there was all this cool kind of deep stuff they were throwing out there. It was so much fun. And there was no requests. It had nothing to do with somebody was dancing to or anything else. It was just you're there. They had a jukebox, but that was turned off when the DJs were in there. It's really cool. I really, really enjoyed that. And boy, talk about just going out there and having some fun. I talked to them. I'm like, yeah, we're not professional DJs. We just love music and we love record collecting and we just come in and do this stuff. And how much fun was that? That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. And I just wonder if how many of those opportunities to be that creative person. I mean, I've even thought about going up to our local bar and pitching, hey, we'll do an 80s night or a 70s night or whatever. Because we used to do things like that. That used to be out there, when you could go and do a format like that was a little, off and just enjoy taking people on that journey. And I don't see that. As Jeff mentions here, clubs are playing it safe. They know that they've got want to program to a specific thing, and that's what they do. So it's just a different world.
It almost seems like the best club jobs that I've gotten that I can think of, the best, most rewarding residencies I've had, with the exception of maybe one or two, were the ones where I was a customer first. Okay. When I was actually there and I knew people. Mm-hmm. And I knew the bartenders, and they would we would have conversations about things.
Sure.
Remember Hot Water Warehouse? The place I used to do all the lighting demos, big.
You told me about that place. Yeah.
Well, in another life, I was a salsa dancer. That's how I met Blanca, and that was a salsa club. So Blanca and I would go to the salsa club, and we clicked with Paul, the owner. We just clicked with him, and one night he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually a DJ." He says, "Really? You should come in here and DJ sometime." Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I do a little different than a lot of other people do, but I got some ideas, and I think I'm familiar with the music. I think we can do this. And I went in there. I didn't go in there a lot because it was just not a lot of dough for me, but it was fun. But when I would go in there, they would make a lot of money at the bar, a lot, because I knew how to rotate a crowd. And I had the trust of the owner already because he knew me. He knew I wasn't going to throw him under the bus. I wasn't going to do anything to make him look bad or his establishment look bad. So, maybe that's the way to approach it. I mean, and I know that, we don't really want to go out and sit at a bar, but that's, go and check out an establishment, see who the clientele is, and get to know people. And maybe you don't bring up the DJ thing right away. Maybe you just go in and you say hi and you're social and you meet the bartender or whatever. And then maybe you go in a week later and check it out. And so, yeah, I was thinking, you ever thought about bringing DJs in here? Because that's what I do. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not really interested in doing Fridays and Saturdays. I'm pretty busy those nights, but it would be wonderful to come in here like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday or something and just do something interesting.
And that actually, you're kind of bridging me into my next area that I wanted to talk about is opportunities that exist today to find additional work. compared to, again, we're going to go back into that 80s and 90s during that kind of a initial burst or growth of the mobile DJ industry, and how today in some ways there's many opportunities, and even in the chat room people are talking. Scott, I think, mentioned doing adult skate nights at roller rinks.
Yeah.
Back in the day, basically the roller rinks around the areas in which I was aware of, they had a DJ and they were like the person. There was you never had a second or different DJ come into the roller rinks and such, which might be different now. But today that just seems that, and I don't know if this is part of our having a more semi-affluent society, or if it's a situation where people are wanting to include musical entertainment in more avenues, and just the idea of getting a DJ is more common. But we've got friends, Rachel and Superfly and different who are DJing at stores. A lot of DJs are doing stores.
Yeah.
There's parties, backyard parties. Rachel was doing a house thing where she was up in the on the second floor on a balcony in somebody's living room type of thing. There's just a lot of different events, and a lot of these things. You talk to people, and they weren't doing some of these types of events back in that early 90s time frame. It just didn't exist like they are today. So the opportunities to find odd jobs, I would almost feel that that's more today than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, they're out there. But I do think that the most, it just feels to me that the most practical thing to do for a training for being a mobile DJ is probably still a bar.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, obviously these aren't the type of events. Yeah, there may, backyard party isn't as critical as a wedding. We'll put it certainly that way. But, and I wanted to get away from the training side of it and really focus more on the opportunity to find other work beyond, if I'm primarily a school dance DJ, well, there are opportunities to find other things to kind of help cover the bills, for lack of a better way to describe it. Back in our day, it was, okay, I'm either doing a wedding, a school, or a bar.
Yeah.
I didn't have there. In the summer, we're in the lakes area here. There will be, on any given weekend, there will be a DJ playing around the lake somewhere. You just have to go out in your boat and listen a little bit, and you'll find them. 4th of July weekend, there might be 5 or 6 DJs playing around the lake here, and one guy doing live music over by this island where they'll have this party, all these party pontoons come pulling in here, and there's like 150 to 200 people on the sandbar drinking and partying with a guy doing playing his guitar out there. Entertainment has kind of become, you've got food, you've got beer, you've got food, and you've got a DJ coming in. It seems to be kind of more prevalent, I think. And maybe I'm just seeing it here and not other places.
Well, I don't know. I think here in the city, I got a couple thoughts, just random thoughts here. In the city, I don't think it's enough to walk up to somebody in a bar and say, hey, I'm a DJ, can I play here? Everybody's a DJ.
Yep.
You need to be good, and they need to trust you, and they need to like you. And it's been my experience that you can get a lot of work working at the right establishment. Even if you're not getting paid a lot working at that establishment. It is, and we talk about exposure when they say, hey, come play at my benefit for exposure. There's real exposure opportunities if you're at the right place. And has anybody in here ever heard of Safe House in Milwaukee? And John, I would like to take you there sometime.
I've heard of. Did we go there? Did we go?
No, but I was the resident DJ there for.
No, yeah, that's right. I'm thinking a different venue or place we were at then. Okay.
No, we went to Palomino, like a little hipster bar, and they were like Rudy about Estrella or something, or Lori. That's what it was. No, Safe House is downtown, and I was kind of give you a little backstory on it. There's one in Chicago now, I guess. They've got a franchise in Chicago now. But the original one's in Milwaukee. It was started by a couple of attorneys, or 3 attorneys or something like that, in 1966. And at the time, the hot thing, the cool thing was the Bond films were just coming out. And they were really popular. So these attorneys decided to make a spy themed bar.
Yeah, I think we went there to eat the one night last year or 2 years ago.
I didn't take it; somebody else did. But if you've been to Safe House, then you know it's a quirky little place.
Yeah, because you have to go in, and then they ask you some question or something to get in.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and then you have to go out through the alley.
password, and they make you do a thing, and you're on the TV monitors all over the place.
Yes. That. So you DJ'd in the place.
Oh, for 7 years.
Wow.
That was my house on Friday nights, and the Safe House was always a tourist bar. So it wasn't a destination. It wasn't like I'm going to say to Blanca, hey, let's go to Safe House tonight.
Sure.
It's something that I take you to when you come to town because it's weird. So whenever there's a convention or whatever, people, where should I go? Oh, you should go to Safe House and check it out. You got to see it because it's interesting.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's a unique place. Yeah.
But you don't typically go every week. It's not a destination where you just got to go, or it wasn't. But when I was doing Friday nights, I had regulars, and they weren't used to that. So I would pack the place early with people who wanted to hear my sets, opposed to just whatever kind of bullshit everybody else was playing.
Sure.
And it was fun. And what I was able to do is not only meet people there, and they, well, do you do weddings? Yeah, here's my card.
Yep.
All the time, because they really liked my work.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, there were people who would say, well, I don't know, man. Can we see you perform somewhere? Can we see you do a wedding? And I would say, well, I don't invite people to other people's weddings, just simply because I would never invite anybody to your wedding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But let me tell you what I'd like to do. You ever heard of Safe House? Yeah, we've been meaning to go there. I tell you what, I'm down there on Fridays. You tell me what night you want to go. I'll put you on the VIP list, or we call it VIO, very important operative, VIO list. You come in there, you tell them who you are, you tell them you're here to see me. We're bringing you through the back door, and enjoy your evening, free on me. And they would get excited. They would come. They would ring the bell. You have a guest. I'd open the door, kind of bring them in through the. When you go in that place, you got to go through the bookcase, but there's actually a door that goes to the right, and that goes right to the DJ booth. Nobody knows that, but it does. So I can open the door. I can bring them back behind the soundboards and shit, and then
nice.
Out there you go. Enjoy your evening, and they would go get a cocktail, come right back, and say, okay, so what's the deposit? Because that experience alone was cool.
It made him feel like this is.
There are opportunities like that you can have if you get into the right establishment. But one thing I will warn against, and I'm actually thinking about Michael on this, because I saw his performance at Expo, and I know that was just about having fun, but you can't play self-indulgent sets when you're at events like this.
Yeah. You
can't do it. I mean, if that's what you want to do, don't do it anywhere where you want to make a real opportunity happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's like fantasy stuff, and that's fun to do. I mean, it's fun to have a night where nobody's around and you play this fantasy set of things that you like. But if you're playing in front of a crowd, play to that crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And for those of you wondering, what Michael said is he had prepared a set that he was using at the Denon booth during the day, and it was mainly a hip hop, more of a hip hop set that he was mixing.
And Howie and I were there.
Yeah,
just to give you an idea of the crowd. So.
Yeah, and then Tuesday night when he did the set for the party and such,
right?
It wasn't the type of set that played to the crowd at all. It was
nice that he got to play. I was glad he got to play.
Yeah,
but I was just very and I'm not trying to hate on Michael here.
No. It's just
I'm just saying. Here's some man stuff for you. Make sure you're playing to that crowd. Figure out what does your dad like to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm speaking directly to Michael right now, so you can watch this later. Or maybe he's watching it now. What does your dad like to listen to? Think about that and play your dad's favorite song. And then think about, wow, what does Uncle Brian maybe like to listen to? What do you think would turn Uncle Brian on? I'm going to guess and play this song, and maybe I'll like it. And then look at a guy like Howie. He's 100 years old. What would he like, I don't know. Play some ancient Hindu music because he's very old. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, that's what you do. As a young DJ, that's the fun stuff. Just to try to play that guessing game. What might they like? And they appreciate it. Mm-hmm. And I remember being a young DJ in a club. We're talking 17, 18 years old. I'm in clubs. And you had to be 21 to work there. But I would say to my boss who would book the stuff, I would say, I'm not old enough to be in here. He says, don't tell him that. If they ask you how old you are, say I'm old enough,
Yeah,
and
well,
leave it at that.
yeah,
Do not tell them that you're 17 years old. All right. So that's what I did, and everybody knew I was young. Nobody asked. They liked what I did, but I was very indulgent, and I was very attentive to who was there, be it a hotel guest or even staff. I knew that the bartender in there was a huge Thin Lizzy fan.
Sure.
And I knew that there was a blackjack dealer who really liked Johnny Rivers. I mean, it was weird stuff like that that you just knew that you should play. And if you played these songs, they were going to look at you and say, "You're thinking about me. I like you."
Yep.
Those are really cool things that you can do when you're looking to really, I guess, plant yourself in an establishment where they trust you and they like you and they want you back. And then they're going to tell everybody, "Our DJ is wonderful. He's wonderful. You go talk to him, whatever you need." And then they're going to have you for their private events, you know? So I don't know, just some thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and really good, because that going back to the performance side of it is there's a lot of places, I not specifically MJ's, but I've talked to other guys who are doing a type of shows that MJ does. And you see the guys doing these major these major touring things where they're on stage and there's 10,000 people in front of them. Yes, they're kind of guessing, doing to that age audience, but it's not like they're putting this all together in advance. And yes, they programmed to play to 25-year-olds, but if it's flopping, they're kind of hosed because there's absolutely nothing that's going to happen. They can't get out of that set. And
it's very, very, I've always been an improvisational DJ when it comes to things like this. Always. It's never been, I know what I'm going to do. I've never known what I'm going to do. We were discussing this last night on our show, where personally for me, it's hard to sit down and lay a mix down at home. But if I have an audience to play off of, then I can do it all night. Because I've got somebody responding to me, giving me feedback, whether they like it or not. And they're showing me this by nodding their head or giving me a thumbs up or dancing or maybe just not yawning. I mean, maybe that's enough sometimes. But yeah, the hell was I going with this? Because I was going to wrap it around to something else that you had mentioned here. See, they're getting old, man. We're just getting old.
What was our topic?
Can't help it. But I just, brain fart, complete brain fart. Sorry about that, kids. Sorry about that.
Well, that's the last part that I wanted to kind of touch on here, and our time's going pretty well here with this, so we'll be timing up our timing just right, is the opportunities today when it comes to music. And we were able to, again, we were talking about practicing music and being creative and finding those hit songs, what have you. And in today's world, the ability, maybe more than the opportunity, but the ability to find dance floor filling music with our modern 2 years and under type music, it seems like that's grown to be so much more difficult today to find that hit that's going to resonate with everyone on our dance floor.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We discussed this last night, so we're kind of just maybe skimming over this for the show tonight.
Yeah, just a little bit with that. But the part I wanted to for people who are looking at it, and again, we talked last night about how these songs just don't, there isn't that song. Yeah. Do you think it's going to get better? Or do you think we've come to this new reality of what modern music is going to be? And I say modern with, 1 to 2 years.
Top 40. Just happening now music.
Yeah. Is it going to, if we come to this new thing where we're going to have to just suck it up and realize that this is reality and we're never going to have that song that is going to be universally loved, like, when something came out and it was hot on the charts back in the 90s because everyone was listening to Top 40 radio and it was kind of released, and it was, on Sunday it was, Rick Dees was playing it on his little Top 40, and during the week it was, on the Top 40 radio station getting played every hour on the hour type of thing.
Ultimately, yes, but to be honest, I don't know that will be during the course of my career as a DJ. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say, but we discussed this last night and we can talk about it again. It's no problem, but this was stuff we were talking about last night. What what I was suggesting is the avalanche of cool songs that we used to just get on a weekly or monthly basis, or even on a seasonal basis, those days are over when it comes to having songs with mass appeal that happen to be new. So, maybe the way to think about this now, instead of looking for the new song, which we've been so used to doing, maybe we just need to look for the good song. Maybe that's the approach that we take from here on out as DJs. The really cool part about it is you probably already own most of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you got to keep up anymore like you used to. I've found that I don't have to do that. Just very rarely do I have to grab a new track. It's weird, but I don't. But yeah, I mean, finding those songs that people know yet haven't been just overplayed and pounded into their head on every classic rock station, at every car show, every time they walk through the grocery store could be a challenge. Mm-hmm. So that's what I have fun doing. I have fun finding the forgotten classics. Not the I don't know it classic. That's different.
Yeah.
But the forgotten classic. I have a lot of fun with that.
And obviously that's going to appeal to a certain age demographic. Whereas, there might be some, and we've talked about this way, a year or so ago when the Guardian of the Galaxy movies were coming out, and they were bringing some semi-forgotten classics to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
But even
now, two things can happen here. I mean, and I believe this. If you do this right, I think you can be successful with it. Certain songs are going to resonate more than others. Mm-hmm. So let's say that you're playing at a mixed crowd event and you have a lot of people that are from our generation there, just for example. Okay. And we play a song. I'll think of a really good song that your kid might not know. Like a really cool song, like that your kid, you haven't played it for them. They don't know it, but it's a good song.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I mean, I don't know why, but I'm thinking about the Go-Go's Head Over Heels is a great song. And I never play it. All right. I haven't played it in 25 years or 30 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. At a game. I used to play it all the time at Safe House in the early days because it was a flashback song then.
Yeah. Yeah.
The grunge had happened. We didn't know what to do. So I was doing that. I was going back and digging out these things that we kind of discarded when, they happened, and then we couldn't wait for the next thing to come out. So we said, okay, we're done with that. Next. It was like that through the 80s. The 80s was amazing in that regard. In the 90s, I don't know if it was that intense, but the 80s it was all disposable as far as we were concerned. In retrospect, it was amazing. Why did we throw it away that fast?
That's a great question.
But we can go back and revisit that stuff. It took me a long time to find the radio edit of Men Without Hats Safety Dance, because it was released. You get the 12-inch. I mean, you can go to the used record store and you can find that 12-inch, but the 12-inch was the 12-inch version. And I'm not sure if the version on the album Rhythm of Youth was the radio edit. I mean, I think it was just a 45 that you could get at the time. That was the radio version of the song. And we're talking about a time where CDs weren't exactly, everywhere. Everything wasn't available on CD. So I remember there was a CD called Poppin' Way Volume 3. It was a double disc. It was an import. I think I think I had said something about this a while back, and I said I paid like $40 for it. I know I paid closer to $70 for that disc. It was an import. It was like maybe $73 or something ridiculous like that. But I got the single of Safety Dance on that disc. So it was worth every penny. Because I had shit nobody had.
Yep.
And I mean, at the time, the song was 10 years old. It wasn't like an antique. To my mind, it was, because what am I, 22 years old? Mm-hmm. But, and to me, that was a song from my childhood. A 10-year-old song for me is a pop song now. It's contemporary. It's weird like that. But at the time, yeah, that was a classic. And I got a collection of those. A big collection of those. They were kind of the forgotten classics. And that's what I did. I did this 80s retro thing in the early 90s because nobody wanted to hear Smells Like Teen Spirit over and over again, let alone dance to it.
Yep. Yeah, there was.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I think, and so I guess what I'm saying is I've had experience with this. A song or two was going to come out once in a while that was really good. Real McCoy does something cool. Hadaway does something really cool. Daft Punk does something really cool. But in the meantime, I was going to the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And that was good stuff. And I think we could do it again. So instead of being really upset about there not being an avalanche of really great current top 40 right now to play for that broad audience, I think we should be thankful that we've got 65 years of great pop music to dig into, of rock and roll. It's out there. And these kids may not know it. Yeah, Come On Eileen. I mean, everybody plays Come On Eileen, though.
Yep.
That's the thing with that song. Everybody plays it. Jimmy's mentioning After the Fire, Dear Commissar. Falco did that song, too. Maybe that one, and maybe that's a song that our generation is going to hear, and they're going to dance to it just because it's familiar and it's fun, but maybe our kids have never heard it. I mean, my kids heard it.
Yep.
I've made her sit and listen to that and the Falco version. I forced her. I just did chair and made her do it because that's what it kind of took. But maybe there's a young generation out there who hasn't heard it, but maybe hearing it in an event will make it a thing for them. I mean, they heard Africa Somewhere by Toto.
Yep.
I don't know where it was, but it could have been at a gig. I don't know. But that's what we've got to work with. So let's find that cool stuff. And a lot of those songs, if you can remember, I mean, and this was the cool thing. I mean, I think about tracks that they had to grow on me. You know what I'm talking about, John?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like this immediate, like,
some
thing.
Are, yeah, there's a couple there's some that were, but there's a lot that was like, okay. And then.
See, just for example, it took me a long time to get my head around Love Shack.
Okay.
I wasn't feeling it at all. It did not sound like a top 40 song to me. And I was usually really good at picking the top 40 songs, but I missed that one. And I've mentioned that before. I mean, I know it. That's a staple now. And of course, but at the time, my head was somewhere else. I want everything to sound like Buffalo Stance or something, I wasn't ready for this retro thing happening. I wanted to go forward, not backwards. But at any rate, there are worse songs that I can think of that immediately, just without a hesitation, we're like, oh my God, what is this? This is amazing. Little Red Corvette by Prince. Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran. There's tons of them that were just so good the first time you heard them. You couldn't wait to hear it again.
Yeah.
You want to listen to them over and over and over again. Never Gonna Give You Up, Rick Astley. Oh my God. First time I heard that hook at the beginning of the song, I'm like, oh, wow. It's a jam. And this whole Rickroll thing where it's a joke, you know what? I don't care. I play it anyway sometimes. And people eat it up. They know it from the Rickroll thing. There's stuff out there we can use and we can have, and they're not expecting, and we can play. It's not the same thing over and over and over again. We can have fun with this. And I think that's what we should do. Instead of playing the same tired staples that we've been playing all this time all along, let's have some fun. And think about that first reaction maybe that you had to a track, like I'm talking about, and see if you can find some of those that we haven't heard in a while and throw them on, because they may have a better chance of resonating with a crowd that's unfamiliar with them quicker than something else might.
And that's one of the things I've really enjoyed with Cocktail Time for the last 15 weddings that I've done, where I've started to incorporate some of those forgotten hits, those little hidden gems, what we'll call it. And it has has made it more entertaining and enjoyable for myself to do some of this, and then to watch the crowd and how they respond, and playing to the different age groups, because now that I'm doing this, I've got the 50 and 60 year olds who are like, yeah, this is really cool. This was the stuff I grew up with, and they're doing the hey, Bobby, this is a song when I was your age that we used to rock out to.
Right. Yeah. This is where we have to go. For now, It might change, but for now, this is where we're going. I've even heard a lot of backlash on a lot of the country because it's a lot of these snap tracks. Dun 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 dun. Everything sounds like Uncle Cracker now. Remember "Follow Me" by Uncle Cracker? Yeah. Like every song on the country chart sounds like Uncle Cracker's "Follow Me" for some reason. and
I guess there's quite a bit of that.
it's not like country like it used to be. It's like, where pop went to die. It's different. So
Pop went to die.
yeah, there's a lot of backlash, and country. We can go back and do some old country too.
Yeah, so all the country fans are now going to be writing. So the email address is brianred at. Oh.
Think about if you don't have like digital radio and you listen to the radio in your car.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, think about how incredibly frustrating it is to find something you want to listen to.
Well, we were scanning the other day just for the heck of it. You had some classical music at the beginning of the dial. Then we got into a variation of country stations. Then we got into adult contemporary, which ironically were being all served from, was it either Clear, not Clear Channel, iHeartRadio or something? I don't know what it was.
Same thing.
But it was basically because we were hearing the same ads for some national brands that weren't in the market.
Right, that they're hearing in
exactly.
Memphis.
And it's like, well, this is just this. And then you got into a little section of a couple of top 40 stations. And then you got into the oldies classic stations, which now are playing 80s on, kind of
right.
60s to 80s, but more of 70s and 80s than the other. So
yeah.
You don't have the variety. We at one time there were half a dozen stations that we could get that were the hard rock stations that were just rock and roll all the time. Some were more modern rock, some were a little bit older. I think most of those there might be one left in our market, but they're gone. They're just not as commercially viable. There used to be 6 or 7 Christian stations. I think there's two that are going, and
two's a lot. Two's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I think one is an AM station that they're basically supported by. That one's more of an older demographic, and because of it being AM, it's a lot cheaper to run, so it's donations that way. And then you've got the main one that is there, but that soft rock, that the station that's geared for that 35 to 55-year-old female listener, those are plentiful on the dial right now.
The thing that I observed, because my XM was down for a couple of weeks, and I was bouncing between 2 stations on my dial, the only 2 that I could find that I could kind of tolerate. Mm-hmm. There was an oldies R&B station, and they did everything from Snoop Dogg to Donny Hathaway. They were all over the place, and that was kind of interesting sometimes. But they had too broad of a range they were trying to cover.
Sure, I get that.
And then there was the classic rock station, which is everything from Yes's Roundabout to The Doors to Motley Crue to Journey to Bob Seger. It's all over the place. And I'd forgotten about this because I haven't really listened to radio in a really long time. I've been listening to just XM.
Yeah.
And what radio does in a lot of markets is they try to play a song that will make you stay. The one that'll probably most likely make you stay and not turn the dial, because they want those ad dollars.
Oh, for sure.
They want the listener. So they're going to play it safe. They're always going to play it safe. And it's a radio. And a lot of it, like you say, it's like iHeart. It's satellite. It's not anything where anybody's actually there in a chair doing it. It's being streamed and then broadcast. When you're a mobile DJ, and I will mention that I did radio once and I hated it, and it was on college radio. I mean, I got a lot of calls and a lot of requests, and they liked me because I was being obnoxious.
Sure.
And I was a teenager, but it's a real unique experience to be able to see your audience.
Oh yeah.
And see how they're responding. You can't do that on radio. So you have to make these assumptions, about what they may or may not like or how they may be reacting to things. And it's very, very safe, old time rock and roll. You Shook Me All Night Long, stuff that we need to probably retire. Just push it aside. Mm-hmm. As a mobile guy, you can actually see those responses. So we've got a leg up on that. We can take chances. And we can see how they react to them, where radio doesn't have that advantage.
Not a bit.
So if I'm assuming that most of my audience is listening to radio, I could play it safe too and play everything the radio is playing. But I bet they're sick of it. They'd love to hear something the radio is not playing. Let's do that. It keeps it more interesting, I feel. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but when I brain farted before, I know what I was going to say.
Okay.
And it was that it's been a slow season. I've got a couple of events coming up in the next couple of weeks, but I had that yacht club gig a few weeks ago, and I really was playing to the audience all night long. I was watching them. I was taking requests. They would request something, and then I would try to play off of that as closely and tightly as I could, and then the next request would come in, and I would play that, and then play things related to it as closely as I could. And there was one time during the evening where I played something I wanted to hear. I just disregarded who was in front of me for a minute and played a song that I really wanted to hear.
Sure.
Oh, it worked, and they danced to it. But I felt guilty. I wasn't thinking about the audience
Yeah, it was
for
like
one song. And I don't know why. It was okay, I'll tell you, the song. It was The Time Jungle Love. I haven't played it in forever.
Yeah.
But I was getting some odd requests, and I was playing off of those requests, and I kept trying to get to the song somehow with that kind of DJ train of thought, where you're doing live programming, improvisational live programming, and I just couldn't quite do it. As I tried and tried and tried, and finally, I was just like, I don't care. We're playing the song, and I felt so guilty about doing it. That's how non-self-indulgent I am as a live improvisational DJ. I couldn't even bring myself to play a song that I liked, even though they danced to it. It was hard to do. So that's what I was going to say. And for some reason, I'd forgotten that. But it was kind of addressed to Michael. I mean, you get to the point, I think, where you are an entertainer. And when you're getting paid to do that, and you want to win trust, and you want to fill dance floors, and you want them to like what you're doing, play to them. Even if it hurts.
Sometimes it will. Yep. Sometimes it will. So I think that will be a good spot for us to wrap things up. We've got a couple of small topics here we're going to hit here before we wrap up. I wanted to kind of make it known for those of you who are wondering, because Brent was actually talking about it in the chat room, asking about Midwest DJs Live coming up here in just a couple of weeks. This is actually something I was planning on initially going to, and tonight I changed my mind on going. It's nothing against Midwest DJs Live, and Brian, this is going to be something that I think you will appreciate, because I think you would have been supporting this decision and probably have encouraged decisions like this. After school today, my daughter, who's in 7th grade, she has been running track, and I used to coach track and such, and I haven't done anything with sports since that day. As I'm sitting at her track meet today, and I'm watching her run and watching her do things, I'm thinking to myself, she's only in track for about 2 months at this time of the year, and she's only going to be a limited number of times and opportunities for me to go to her, attend her track meets. And as much as I'd love to go to Milwaukee and see friends and go to the DJ events, it's like, I'm going to make the decision to be there for my daughter for her track meets. And in this case, that means that I won't be able to make Milwaukee. So,
yeah, it's the right choice. I mean, family comes first.
Yeah, and that's I'm not saying this in a way. I regret that isn't a decision I have made all the time. That there have been many times where I have put the kids on the back burner, and even tonight as an example. We come out and we've got the show. I've got my two little ones who are finishing up with dishes as I left the house, and it would be nice to be able to tuck them in and get them to bed, but it didn't.
So you're talking to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I, this is what I do for a living, gang. So don't,
I'm sorry for John. He's just saying.
Yeah, it's just, this is reality. I spend time for you guys, and we come together and we do some things, but there's going to be times like, the nights that I want to go watch my daughter run hurdles. And if you guys haven't, if you want to check out what that's like, go to my Facebook page, John Young MN on Facebook. And there's Alyssa, her first 2 hurdle races of the year. And those today was kind of a proud papa time, because she went out there and did a nice job. Didn't win her heat or didn't win the event. She came in second, but for her second race ever in a school that is a small enough school that doesn't even, I don't even know if they have 10 hurdles. They don't have a track. They basically this is like something you get out of this weird movie type thing where the school couldn't afford uniforms and the school couldn't afford this, and then all of a sudden there's this Hoosiers type event happening. Yeah,
wow,
this is
nice.
That's what's going on with their school. But again,
let me just commend you for being a great sports dad, because I'm the worst sports dad ever. I remember my daughter, she took soccer. She didn't want to take soccer. She was just doing it because other kids were doing it. I'm like, it's at 8:00 on a Saturday morning. I am not coming to your soccer. And then somebody made me one time, and I sat there, and my kid is just like paying no attention, and hi, and the ball's going right past her, and like, this is just dumb. Let's not do soccer anymore, huh? I don't want to get up. You don't want to play. Let's just not do this. Let's just do something in the afternoon every Sunday or Saturday or whatever, and enjoy ourselves. So I actually respect the fact that you're a good sports dad.
Yeah.
So I was a terrible sports dad.
And this is our first, most of you know that we have 6 children, and this is our 4th child, who finally at fourth child, with her being in 7th grade. So I've got 22. The first ones are 22, and the other 2 boys. 7th graders finally into sports. So my dad's going to go and enjoy that, and it means that there will be things like this that won't happen. And when we get into fall, I don't know how that's going to change, because now we have volleyball, and then winter we have basketball, and next year she's going to have a full season of basketball. So,
sports dad, look out! We got sports dad.
So
good for you.
So we'll be figuring that part out. But I just wanted to for those of you who have been talking about Midwest DJs Live, that's going to be something that will go on the back burner for this year. And we've got other folks from DJNTV who will be there and to be able to represent and chat and such. So, and
I might not go either, but if you're in town, reach out and maybe we'll go get some excellent cheese curds down the road or something.
There you go.
My neighborhood's fun.
Yeah,
so you want to come to my neighborhood for sure.
It's a little hipster neighborhood. That's kind of and Brian fits right in with all those hipsters.
Yeah, I look exactly like them. They look at me like I'm a cop. Yeah, I'm like, exactly. No tattoos, no piercings. Who is this guy?
Yeah, what's Grandpa doing over there?
Yeah, drives a V8.
He's just bad for the environment. So again, we're going to wrap things up for tonight. Thank you guys for being with us. Once again, if you want to catch some of the educational content that we do on that convention series, just go out to DJNTV.com. You can see the sign up and such there. But if you go to DJNTV.com/schedule, you'll get to see all of the convention series shows. There's another 40 or 50 videos beyond that are a little shorter educational content videos. But that'll give you a good idea of what's out there and what type of topics we have covered here in the last year with the convention series. And then if you want to join us, as little as $10 a month, and you can get access to all those videos and a couple of new things we're going to be bringing out here the 1st of May. So,
if you really like mine, say something. We'll do more.
Yeah. If you get a chance, listen to that. And
I really enjoyed the one last night.
Yeah, that was fun, and there was some. I enjoyed the thought process behind having somebody go and discuss. And in the show last night, Brian actually shared a mix he did and talked his way through it, which was really kind of cool. So, you guys check that out, and otherwise, have a good evening, and we'll catch you next week. Good night, everybody.